This is a story about a son who hated his father so much that he spent years trying to get him killed. Our story begins in a small village, nestled between rolling hills and a vast ocean. It was a place where life moved at its own pace, untouched by the chaos and complexities of the outside world. He was known for his strength, wisdom, and unwavering sense of justice. The son, on the other hand, was viewed with suspicion and disdain. He was seen as a troublemaker, a young man with a chip on his shoulder, always looking for a fight. It was clear to everyone in the village that the relationship between the two was strained, but no one knew the full extent of the hatred that simmered beneath the surface. However, every attempt at connection was met with resentment and anger, pushing the son further down the path of destruction and making the reconciliation seem like an impossible dream. He went to the son's home, ready to have a heart-to-heart talk, but was met with violence instead. The son, consumed by his own demons, attacked his father, not knowing that this would be their last encounter. In this tranquil setting lived two men, a father and his son, whose relationship was anything but ordinary. He found peace knowing that he had touched the lives of many and that his legacy of justice and compassion would live on in their hearts. But there was still one piece of his heart that remained untouched by peace: his son. On one hand, they felt sympathy for the old man who had been taken from them too soon. On the other hand, they knew that this might be the wake-up call their misguided neighbor needed. Perhaps the death of his father, the one person who had loved him unconditionally, would finally make him see the error of his ways. He confessed that he had hurt his father deeply and had brought nothing but shame to his memory. The sincerity in his voice was evident, leaving no doubt in anyone's mind that he was genuinely sorry for his actions. As he lay there, his life hanging in the balance, he couldn't help but feel a deep sense of sadness for the son he had lost. Would he finally break down, letting the grief consume him, or worse, would he lash out, taking his pain and anger out on the world? The villagers, though initially hesitant, were willing to give him a chance. They saw the potential for good in him, the possibility of a brighter future. If he chose to embrace the light, consumed by grief and guilt, he decided to pay his father a final visit. But it wasn't the kind of visit anyone expected. He threw himself into acts of service, helping the villagers with whatever they needed and showing kindness to those who had been shunned and forgotten. His transformation was remarkable, leaving everyone who knew him in awe. As the villagers watched with bated breath, the son walked up to his father's grave, not with hatred in his eyes, but with remorse. The suspense was palpable as they waited for him to make the first move. They had seen the son at his worst, preying on the weak and spreading fear wherever he went. But now they were witnessing his redemption, his public renunciation of the darkness that had consumed him for so long. But the damage done to his body and soul was irreversible. It was a turning point, a public declaration that the silent war within him was finally coming to an end. With tears streaming down his face, he vowed to change, promising that his father's death would not have been in vain. And the birds were singing sweeter now that the son had chosen to walk the path of righteousness. As he stood there at his father's graveside, the son knew that his journey towards redemption had just begun. He had taken the first step, but the road ahead was long and arduous. He knew that he wouldn't survive this, that his time on earth was running out. He had failed to guide him, to show him the error of his ways, and now their relationship remained broken, fractured by years of hatred and mistrust. They were engaged in a silent war, one that had been raging for years, tearing their lives apart and leaving deep scars on both their souls. The father, an imposing figure with a stern demeanor, was respected by everyone in the village. But as the son grew older and more reckless, the father, a sense of duty and love for his village, compelled him to try and guide his wayward child back to the right path. As we delve deeper into their story, we'll discover that the roots of their animosity ran deep, entwined with secrets, betrayals, and long-held grudges. They saw the potential he had, the good that could come from him if he chose to walk the path of righteousness. But his stubborn hatred for his father had blinded him, turning him against everything that was good. Their silent war had become a constant presence in their lives, shaping their actions and consuming their thoughts. And now, at the twilight of the father's life, the truth of their past and the true nature of their bond are about to be revealed. Years went by and the son grew into a strong young man, inheriting his father's imposing physique but not his virtues. Instead, he became a bully, preying on the weak and using his strength for intimidation. As he grew older, his hatred for his father only twisting his view of the world and turning him into a force of destruction. Meanwhile, the father, unaware of the turmoil his son harbored, continued to live his life of service to the community, trying to be a beacon of hope and justice for those around him. Despite the son's animosity, the father never gave up hope that one day they could reconcile and put an end to the silent war that had become their lives. In a desperate attempt to save his son from himself, the father decided to confront him directly, hoping to break through the wall of hatred that had been built around his heart. During this struggle, the father was gravely injured and left for dead. With his last bit of strength, the father stumbled back to his own house, where he was nursed back to health by his worried neighbors. As he lay on his deathbed surrounded by the community he had dedicated his life to serving, for years the villagers had watched in dismay as the once promising young man had turned into a monster, a danger to himself and everyone around him. Now, As the news of the father's death spread through the village, the villagers were torn. As the days passed, the villagers kept a close eye on the son, waiting to see how he would react to the news of his father's passing. One day, the son couldn't take it anymore. He began to apologize, his voice cracking with emotion, admitting that he had been wrong, that he had wasted his life on anger and vengeance. But the apology wasn't just a hollow recitation of words. The villagers, who had witnessed the depths of his hatred, were taken aback by this sudden change. It was as if a weight had been lifted from the village, as if the sun was shining brighter. He would have to prove himself, show the villagers that he was truly sorry and that he was committed to making amends for the pain he had caused. The son, now free from the shackles of hatred that had bound him to his dark past, was determined to seize this opportunity. And so the story ends, not with a bang, but with a whisper of forgiveness, a testament to the enduring power of love and redemption.